All right, I will call this meeting of the Trempealeau County Property Committee to order.
You're good.
We have a certification of open meeting law requirements have been met through proper posting. Hey, guys, let's go. Got a 14-item agenda. I will entertain an adoption or a motion to adopt that 14-item agenda.
Make that motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Carried. Minutes from the previous meeting have been distributed, and I will entertain a motion to adopt those minutes as distributed.
Motion.
So move.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried. Members of the public will have a 15-minute block of time to comment on today's agenda items. Members may be present in person or call in to make such comments. To comment by telephone, please call 715-538-1894. Public comment may be extended or curtailed at the discretion of the committee and after advisement by the committee and board. Number 6 on the agenda, Samuel's Group. Kurt.
Morning, everyone. Quick update. We did have our pre-bid meeting last week We did have our pre-bid meeting last week for the renovation phase. We had decent attendance. I think 15 contractors were present. We will reach out to more to kind of remind you of the timeline of that bid process. Is we will have an addendum that is going to be due or issued on October 11th this week to all the bidders. And then our bid date is October 19th at 2 p.m. here at the courthouse, which will be read aloud. And then on October 24th, we do have our joint committee scheduled with this committee and Exec Finance, I believe, to give you a summary of those bids, and we'll have them broke down into multiple phases. So
October 20 what?
24th, I believe, is what we have set, unless that's changed.
8:30.
8:30, yep. And the intention at that point is that we would have a summary of what the bids are and the phases from those components. So that's an update on that renovation. Any questions on those? Okay. Justice Center progress. Blacktop will be going down next week. We're still on track for the end of the month here for substantial completion. Again, remember, substantial completion is they'll still be testing, balancing some of those punch list items that'll be taking place after that. But we will be substantially complete that people can start getting in there and using the area, start to do the training for the jail piece, and then obviously looking at occupancy of the Justice Center after the first of the year. So, any questions on that?
On the jail with DOC's oversight,
Yes.
is the jail going to have to be staffed to a certain degree?
Meaning that prior to occupancy?
Yeah.
So it's not technically staffed, it's training. So they'll have to rotate in their staff to be able to train while the jail is still being. So if the question is driving, will there be more hours in that piece for the sheriff and his staff? Yes. But it's not that it technically has to be staffed. They can work out their schedule as to when they're going to do the training.
Okay.
But then when the DOC comes and does their inspection, he will have them sit through and run through the entire process before he'll grant them occupancy for that. So,
Thank you.
yep.
Kurt, also, I went up and looked at that, where you're coming through the wall. That
Yep.
was moved significantly from where you originally had it.
Yep.
Is that all going to be done then when that jail part is done?
Yes.
So the new hallway will be in, sheetrock, ceiling, everything.
The connection, you'll be able to get between the two buildings, right? But the renovation portion that's in there, with the renovation piece, the final renovation of that annex,
Yeah.
obviously won't take place until after we do the bid.
Right,
phase, but-
the renovation, but I'm just talking that the hallway and everything should have been probably in that bid, wasn't it? To finish that off
No, it was not.
completely? Because if they would have changed their mind and said, hey, we don't want to do any renovation,
Right.
what would you have? Just a hole in the wall?
You're right. You're right. And that's the issue that's associated with that. So it wasn't in the first bid. That's why we've moved that work into this renovation number. So when we have the renovation number, that's where we'll have that final.
Well, that's pretty poor in the first part. They should have had one complete bid.
Understood.
right away. I mean, correct? I mean, that's the way I would understand it.
Understood. Okay, that's what I have for you. And then the final thing is update on change orders. This is a summary of all the open ones. We haven't went over this in a couple of months. You can see that it's a multitude of small change orders that had to deal with coordination and some of the details between what was specified and what the contractors had. At the end of the day, we just have a couple small ones that are hanging out, but this is wrapping it up. From the size perspective of these, none of them require any action on yours, but you can see where we stand with remaining contingency. Kurt actually was able to take the work that we had to shift that doorway over and gonna move that, like we just said, into that renovation portion, so it's not hitting contingency here, so we'll have a bid number on that. So that's where that summary has ended up sitting on our contingency.
Moving that door, although we're paying for that whole move, correct?
It will be bid in the next one, correct? Yep.
Well, the door moving now, that's in the original one.
No, we're actually moving that into the phase of from the budget of the renovation piece of that.
Well, then you should take that money out of the first. 'cause you had that in the first-
Portions of it are covered in this phase, but the rest of the elements that are in that phase outside of that will be in the
I
renovation.
just said, yeah, if we're not getting to the first phase, we should get a deduction too,
Correct.
correct?
Yep. Yeah, part of it isn't covered in this base bid, but yeah, we'll end up shaking
I
it.
mean, we're quick with the change orders. I'm just waiting to get some money back.
Yep. Yeah, you can see where we sit with the remaining contingency. There's a couple there's some power that needs to be tied into a couple 911 dispatch elements that are in there, so there isn't a lot of them that are hanging out.
So there's no surprises, because this number is surprising a lot of people.
Why is that
The
surprising?
remaining,
That there's some remaining?
yeah.
Oh, well, that's good. I'm glad I'm glad you're surprised that it's remaining.
I think, surprised, I mean, that's a huge number remaining.
Access for it was a lot lower than that, maybe, yeah.
No, again, there's still a couple small ones coming out of that, but that's where we're sitting.
On the new bid, what's gonna be the level at which approval for contingencies is set?
I guess you guys could take action on that. The 25,000 is what was set for the project, and this will be a continuation of the project. If you want to change that, we can. The 25,000 is what's been established.
It's a lot smaller project, but that's why I'm wondering, maybe it would be appropriate to have that brought down some.
Sure. Again, we can talk about that when we get to the discussion of award of those bids.
Yeah.
So something to consider.
Yeah.
That's about all I have for you guys. I think for the most part, in regards to the wrap up and the details that were there, we'll be working with the departments on the move. Furniture will be coming in at the end of October and start to get that moved in. So it'll be setting and ready to go. Obviously, occupancy won't happen until after the first of the year, but all of that's going to be taking place over those couple of months. So,
Kurt, if you don't mind, what is the change exercise room door? What is that?
change exercise room door.
Heidi, what that was is in the exercise room, there's overhead door. It comes down for when the inmates move around. Well, the one was non-insulated, and we had to change that to an insulated door. So it was a design issue. It wasn't feasible having an uninsulated door to cover up that louver in that
Well,
area.
it only
So-
make, yeah.
So, yeah, there was a design error, and we had to correct it.
Did you get any money from the designers?
We've had that discussion already.
That's a no.
Other than that, things are moving along well. So timing is good still on the 24th though. That works for everybody. 8:30. Okay. That's all I have.
Thank you, Kurt.
6 connections dropped down next to that table. I don't see any drops underneath that cap. So, but the LVC guy looked at it and didn't see any drops there, so.
Mr. Robertson. Tim? You're up.
You're up.
Thank you. Resume my objection to 8:30 Monday morning meetings, especially that you're shut the whole building down for 24 hours on weekends.
Yeah, how'd that go?
I'll give you an update.
Okay.
Thank you.
Jury's still out on some stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we had the outage. Primarily, the sheriff's office came up with the items that were most important to them and worked with facilities and IT, and basically got a chance to test our disaster recovery plan with a planned outage, and it, for the most part, went really, really well. I thought the sheriff's office plan was outstanding. They did all the right things, and that always pays off. And we didn't have any major incidents with the 911 center being able to function. Jackson County, that worked out really slick, having somebody over there. So, yeah, the sheriff and dispatch and jail and the emergency manager all did a great job there. My team, I'm really proud of them. I thought they did a really super job. We were in on Saturday and had pretty much everything up and running right when dispatch needed it by 6. We have a few items that have failed. We lost one of our switches that controls the access points, or is the through point for the access points here in the building for some areas, and so we're having some issues with that. We lost some cameras in the jail. Those haven't come back up yet. But we got 200 people signing in this morning, so we're still discovering stuff as more people come in. Few PCs here and there are connecting, not able to connect to ACS yet this morning. So we're working on it. We had an emergency, and special thanks to my team for doing the IT planning on that, because I really had nothing to do with it because I was in budget hearings all the time. So thank you to them for that. The HVAC setup in the new building. So they needed network connectivity in order to tune the system. I believe that's a requirement for substantial completion. So we were happy that the LVC was able to get and had run some copper between the closets in the new Justice Center. So we were able to hook up some old switches and get them connected. So I believe they're in the process of doing what they need to do.
Yep.
That worked for them.
That's gonna go a couple month process, I guess.
Okay. I got an issue in the dispatch closet that we uncovered. I need space for a Vesta rack in there, but met with B&B on that. But as you recall, that was going to be where the Vesta and the Baycom stuff was going to be. But when Baycom said they don't need it anymore, now it's got jail controls in it. And there's not enough room for the other rack. But I think if we move things sideways,
Make it work.
we should. But I don't have a report back yet from B&B on that. The to-do list. This is what I'm handing out. This is all the stuff we have to get done. Requirements to migrate the various departments over to the new Justice Center. Got some big ones there that will take a lot of time, require a lot of coordination with the various departments, but primarily with Jeremy and his team and facilities. Figuring out how to connect the various systems and get them to work the way they're supposed to day one for the ones that are required to work day one before you can move in. We have a list of projects that have to be completed during transition, not required to occupy the building, but they will be eventually need to get done. So that's the stuff we'll be working on in November and December. Then there's the migration of dispatch, which depends on the grant award, which we are absolutely going to get because we can't broker it any other way. We have some pre-move stuff we'll have to do prior to March and April. And then when we actually have to move them, it'll be a very similar situation to what we had this weekend. There'll be shenanigans for a solid 24 hours as we try and get that done. Yeah, that's a favorite word of mine. That's all I have for you this morning.
Any questions for Tim? Thank you, Tim. Jeremy?
So like Tim spoke about with the power cutoff over the weekend. I had very minimal issues with bringing stuff back on. I am having an issue with the air handler here now. If you can hear it in this room, it's kind of breathing, kind of like a train or a whistle. Some of the programs got off. One of the battery backups inside the system didn't last long enough, so I'm getting that taken care of this morning. Other issue I found, I've never ran this building off of the generator for more than like 30 seconds at a time because I never wanted to do a full load test while dispatch was still in this building, so this was a good trial for me because they did run this building off of the new generator for a good portion of time, so it kind of gave me an idea of what runs over here and what doesn't. And the only main issue that I have is this north elevator has no power to it when we run off a generator. The other two do, but I'm going to have to look at doing something to get some backup power for this particular elevator if we have a substantial power outage. That way we don't have someone trapped in there for...
You want us to add that to the addendum on the renovation, at least get a price on it?
You can get a price, but don't include it in there. But I'm going to reach out to because I have Schumacher Elevator over here, so I'm going to talk to them first too.
Okay.
But yes, you could. That would be fantastic.
Did the generator run that first floor wiring closet?
No, your south basement wiring closet was powered for as much as I could tell for what you didn't already have shut down, but your first floor had no power to it. And then other than that, we had enough lights and we had enough to function to get people in and out of this building, but there's not enough power in this building for people to continue working if we have an extended power outage in this building. The other building will be 100%. Everything will run over there and everyone in there can stay working. So, only other thing that I have and at least you guys are still here, I just wanted to verify. So there's no exterior signage on this new building. Nothing that says like Trempealeau County Courthouse, Justice Center, anything. I'd like to get some signage up because again, people kind of want to know where they're going. Now there's a concrete half round wall where the flagpoles are going. I would like to get a price to get some sign, and I have enough money to cover the cost of this year, but I just need to know if you guys prefer if the signage says Trempealeau County Government Center, Trempealeau County Justice Center, Trempealeau County Courthouse. I don't know exactly what to get prices on to call this particular building because courthouse is what it's kind of called now. Project is called Justice Center. There's a signage out front that says Government Center, so don't really know what to get prices on.
I suggest Government Center.
And the same with the entrance to the jail. There'd be no signage over there for where the visitors go to get that says Trempealeau County Jail. That one's easy enough. I'll just put Trempealeau County Jail, but
The price per letter?
more than likely it's going to be, yeah.
What's the least amount of letters?
Just do abbreviations for everything at that point. But if you guys don't have a preference, I would probably just do Government Center because that kind of incorporates everything.
Yes.
And then there's already some power there that I was told that's going to be powering some of the lights that shine up to the flagpole, so I can at least in this have some more lights to help illuminate the letters that are on there. But I think it would be beneficial to have the name of the building on the outside of it for everybody to know where they're going.
Where's it gonna
Again, it would be near the front entrance as it sits right now. When you're done here, if you want to look, it's already kind of poured where the flagpoles are going to go, and so it would be on that particular wall in the front. Correct. Yeah, and it will have the stonework that's on the outside of it. That's like on the outside of the entrance and part of the inside of the entrance. So again, I would just do lettering and work with the company to see which ones are going to be the most.
Is there gonna be parking in front of that? Do you know?
There shouldn't be any parking spots right now, right there, but there is some just to either side or to one side of it.
I just
But
didn't want the parking stalls to block the.
no, more than likely there is the road is going to be there. So more than likely, like at the schools, you're going to have people drive up there and let somebody out and drive away. But there's no permanent parking right there. So again, I'm not asking for any money for that. I do have some money of various things that I've had to purchase that I still need to get for tools and carts and stuff for my staff to shelving and stuff for the new building. But
I think if we call it Government Center, that cuts down on confusion because that part of the building is the Government Center and we're not going to separate the two.
yeah, if we have one entrance for the whole building, if it was just the sheriff's department and courts, and that's the only reason, then it may be Justice Center or courthouse or whatever. But Government Center will encompass land records, registered deeds, and the court system. So Other than that, we had no other major issues. Like Tim did say, though, we did have a few cameras that were going down. I can't get them to come back up, and Daryl wasn't 100% sure what's going on. So that camera vendor will be here at some point before noon today. And then I have another vendor showing up again shortly. They should be here within a half an hour to remove the existing LP tank. Since we removed the generator this weekend, we don't need that existing LP tank anymore. So they'll pump out what's in that tank, keep a record of how many gallons they pumped out, and then when we're ready to pump back into the new tank, I have a X amount of dollar credit plus whatever gallons I pump out of here to pump into the new one. So
Where'd the old generator go?
I scrapped it. So nobody wanted it, didn't run well enough, and it was easier to pay for the scrap price now than it was to try to put it up on the Wisconsin surplus and then try to arrange to get it onto somebody else's cart later and store it in the parking lot for 6 to 8 weeks while I was waiting for it. So that'll be the profit that my department makes this year of the scrap metal fee when I bring that check to the treasurer's department proudly and have it deposited into one of my accounts instead of spending money. So I have nothing else for this month. Like I said, it's going to be a busy next few months. So this week has just been prepping for this power outage, which thankfully went well. So.
Any questions for Jeremy? Thank you, Jeremy. Employee screening policy. Where did we leave off with that?
Thought we were gonna screen everyone. We're
That's
at
my
that point for sure.
That's my understanding as well.
The policy, I made modifications to it and delivered it to the sheriff, and he's taking it to the security team. And now that we have a lawyer on site, that'll probably get done by the time your November meeting rolls around.
All right, well, let's just move on then. Need more info to put that topic to sleep. And the next one is meeting room policy and security. We have, didn't we need the sheriff's input on this as well? Because the security aspect of it was going to require expenditures from his budget. Discussion on meeting room policy and security.
Chair, I was walking around here trying to figure out how we could resolve this, because we talk about it at every meeting. And I was telling Dave, if somebody wants to use the meeting rooms, and we're talking Packer and Wisconsin, Trempealeau, which is in the old building. You can come in door number 2, which is directly across from where you used to go into the jail. From the middle part, there's a sidewalk. I went and looked all the way from this parking lot right to that door. And if, let's say the Girl Scouts or somebody wanted to use it, Jeremy could give them a tag. You can lock. When you come in from the outside, there's a steel door right ahead of you. They could lock, so they couldn't get into the existing old courthouse. There's a door to your left where they can get downstairs, because that's where they got to go. And there's another steel door there that they could be locked. And there's another steel door upstairs. So they could be locked out of the whole courthouse except for entrance into that basement. And there's bathrooms down there. And if they...
You're talking over by the Pepsi machine?
Yeah.
Neither of those doors have locks on them.
Well, you could put locks on them. I'm just saying.
right now,
Right.
those are pass-through doors because they're fire doors.
But can we legally put locks on them for that?
If I
Time?
don't ask anybody, it's a fire door. I'm not technically supposed to lock them. But-
Well, I mean, I didn't.
Yeah,
They
I get
had-
it. I mean, that's what we used to do anyway, but if we're
Yeah.
looking at when the new building is open, those doors were intended right now to also be alarmed as fire exits.
But they're all just, they're inside doors.
Is there a
They're all inside
possibility
doors.
of locking the door in the basement prior to getting to the stairs, right below the sheriff's admin?
I can do whatever you guys want to do. Like you said, I can get locks set up but the door that goes out to that courtyard,
That,
I plan on having it alarmed as a fire exit.
right, but if we had to, we could just keep it locked. The key fob that you could set up for the people coming in. That was the only,
Yeah,
that was the only
there is
way
a
I
reader
solve
on
it
it. There
all.
is a reader on it right now, but it is scheduled to come out So I would need to know, because it's scheduled to come out on the remodel plans that we just did, because there would have been, as it sits right now, there was no need for it, because that was not gonna be an entrance, because you haven't set up as one entrance to the building. After hours would be something different, but.
But you see where I'm coming from.
I
It's
do.
not, it's right there. You walk in from the outside and you go right downstairs. You don't go through the whole hallway or nothing, if you wanted them to use it. If you want to allow anybody to use it.
And if we had the appropriate locks in place, it would do away with the need for a security checkpoint.
Correct.
So Chair, a question on Jeremy, in the future, when the building's all done and we're coming and going, employees will have to go out the main entrance in order to use the
Let me get onto it.
area out here for breaks?
So yes, the way that you guys have it set it up right now is one entrance and possibly two exits, the one on the north side to go to Quick Trip. But right now you have it set up, which is the concessions that we made in those remodel plans, one entrance, one exit, that's it.
Okay.
With the exception of the door you're speaking of, or the existing front door, or the existing Quick Trip door. You could exit every one of those in the event of an emergency.
Emergency or fire. That's
But
what
an
I said.
alarm will go off
Yeah.
if someone tries to open it now. If we're gonna go that route, then I would need to change that particular door at least. But then, again, it wouldn't be alarmed, so the front door would have to monitor it, because then technically employees could still go out it in the middle, to curb the rock in the door situation, which is what we were going to alarm the rest of the doors for. So if your policy changes to security screening and stuff like that, then we could address those other doors. But right now, for what you guys have set up, that's what we have set up in that remodel plan.
Yeah,
So, and I get where you're coming from. We can set it up to use that Trempealeau room
Yeah.
and the Packer room. But again, we would still have to, I think we have 2 cameras down there right now, but there's a server room in that basement. And then that's access to the mechanical room. So we just want more cameras down there for,
Well, you just
if we have it open on the weekends for someone to go in there. So it's just a policy change that I'd have to,
I would just think that, let's say the Girl Scouts came to us, said, hey, I want to use it 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock. They come to you and get a badge that allows them to get in there from 5 to 9, and that's it.
yeah, and
That's
if
all
that's,
it's good
again,
for,
if that's the
and
route, I just need to update
everything
the
else should be
remodel
locked.
plan to leave that door reader in place.
The only thing that would be unlocked would be the back room and the pantry.
Yeah, so if we're looking at using those ones after hours, once this remodel, whatever phase, whatever it goes through, you are going to have 3 conference rooms in this wing on the 2nd floor where child support is existing, so we could utilize those without having to utilize, all of this is fluid, and I can change things as needed when we get to that point, but.
And, yeah, I'm not stuck on this, but it was just an idea to throw out there and let you guys think about it, because rather than have them go in the new part,
Yep.
these have served the purpose for how many years, and with all the security doors, I thought, well, but.
Yeah, it would be
Might
a
be
small security change that I would have to do on one of the doors on the inside. 2 of the doors, but one of them, like I said, it's really, I can put a lock on it, but you'd have to be able to open it from the outside because of fire issues, so I can't have it like the one at the bottom of the stairwell. If you came in that door where you're talking by the Pepsi machine, you have a door on your left that goes to the stairwell and a door in
Right.
front of you that goes into the lobby for the elevator. Inside of that door to the left, there's another door on the stairwell, and I can't put a lock to keep that one permanently locked because it's a fire route. The fire department would take, they'd have issue with me locking a fire exit
But you
like
can
that,
lock those
so.
2 doors right when you come out of the sheriff's department to your right.
Yes,
In the
they're
hallway.
not gonna get into the hallway,
Hallway,
so,
yep.
and they're not gonna get into the sheriff's department.
Correct.
So
So
they
there
can
may
still
be-
get into the basement.
And that's where you want
But
it.
it's just that outside door. Again, this is all,
This
I'm getting
conversation.
way outside of the realm of, if you choose to go that route, we'll deal with that later, but.
So in essence, we'd be creating another Quick Trip door.
No. This would be, because you'd only activate that, Bob would only be active for the hours that that person wants.
But if it's not a fire exit, someone could go out that
Yeah,
door.
again, so that becomes an
Yeah.
issue with the fob and a fire alarm on that door. Again, if we get to that point, I'll address it at
Oh, I
that,
see.
but,
Yeah.
because I'd have to remove the alarm from that door from 6 to 8 PM the alarm would have to be turned off and the fob would have to be turned on. So that's two separate issues. So again, that's, if you want to go that route, when we get there, I'll deal with it at that point. It's not impossible, it's just not as easy, so.
Well, help me along, Adi. I guess, obviously, you're bringing this forward.
I
'Cause
just-
we don't have an option to get into the new building yet, right?
Right.
So
I thought-
this would have handled that. But-
Yeah, because there's nothing in.
So
the
if we
building.
don't do what you're asking, we have to come,
into the new building.
try to come up with a new.
No, I
building.
think this would be the best, this is a good option,
Yeah.
Audie. I'm glad you
The
brought it
new
up.
building, we're gonna have security
Yeah,
here.
yeah. This would really take care of a lot of issues and still have availability of 2 meeting rooms.
And bathrooms are right.
Actually, this is interesting because an earlier plan was to build a Justice Center, not Justice Center, but a jail on the front of the building years ago, and to have a meeting rooms in the basement of that with bathrooms and an entrance. And this is exactly the same kind of concept. And this would make sense. And seldom, I don't think it'd be used very much, but it would be an option. And maybe if it were available, maybe it'd be used quite a bit in time. Who knows?
Yeah. I was just,
As long
we
as
were
there
trying to
was-
figure out how to get.
Yeah.
use
And,
it,
and,
you know.
and that's understandable,
It's not
yes,
perfect
because
by no means.
once the new building, the front door is open for that, there's gonna be no meeting rooms on the second floor for however long until
Yeah.
that remodel phase happens, so. And again, I won't know until the 24th on what they plan on doing remodel wise. Are you doing it all at once? What phases is what? Because that will also change how I alarm some of these perimeter doors, because if we still have vendors or contractors, I'm probably not gonna alarm the quad door or the quick trip door quite yet, because contractors are gonna be wanting to use those instead of coming in and out the main entryway going through.
Right.
So that's all stuff that we're gonna have to bring back to property when it comes to employee screening plus vendor screening when the project is going on. So that's all stuff on my agenda, but just not trying to overwhelm or have a 45-minute conversation on something that we don't quite know yet. So it's, once we know around the 24th of this month, then we'll kind of make some changes and talk about that for the meeting room, so.
Which is the idea
Yeah,
too.
no, I think that's.
Try to get away from
You got
having
it out
somebody
there.
on duty, like you said, and this way they can come in on their own. Tim wants.
Yes, Tim?
This would be for Jeremy. The setup for the front doors, so when somebody comes after hours and doesn't have a badge, but they want to gain entrance, there's going to be like a intercom at the front that goes to dispatch, and they can get, for the new building,
The
right?
new building, there's an intercom in the vestibule that will reach dispatch, yes.
Could you repeat the same setup for that door that we were speaking of on the jail that goes to the basement, instead of handing out the card and whatnot?
So-
People could just intercom and say, we're going into this space for our Girl Scout meeting, and
Yeah, we could probably put a button so it'd have to have a camera and the control in dispatch so they could open that door. But now, again, that's something that we would have to look at during this renovation process to run controls from this building
all right.
into
And
dispatch.
then would it be inside code to add a door in that basement hallway just past the ladies' room or the water?
Wouldn't you want them? to
That you'd want
access the
that
Packer
open
room?
though, for the Trempealeau.
I'm sorry.
Packer room?
Well, that's the question. Do they need it? Because there's stuff they can't have access to.
Well, that's what I'm saying, we'd have to add a few more cameras down there for after hours, but I put one past the men's room, a door, then you're not gonna access the Trempealeau room.
Right.
And that's what they were wanting, was both of those rooms available, so.
But you could send people out the building to the Trempealeau room. Be like an adventure. You get to go out into the parking lot to go to the Trempealeau room. I don't think it's going to be a very popular meeting space once the new building's up anyway.
Down there in the-
It's not a pleasant room, so.
True.
Trempealeau. It's too long, so you're too far away from everybody. If it's a big enough meeting, it's
Oh, you mean
it's more moldy and dusty than this one.
You mean for internal use?
Yeah. With the new spaces we'll have available in the new Justice Center, I don't see a lot of people rushing to go to the Trempealeau room. You never know.
I was under the impression we weren't gonna give them an option. In order to cut back on the security costs, certain meetings would have to take place in either the Packer room or the Trempealeau room.
Well, that might come to pass because the sheriff's office controls the main room that's of size that would replace the Trempealeau room, but we don't know the sheriff's policy yet.
May I ask why that room isn't, why wasn't that room designated as a general conference room and that anyone who wanted to use it, maybe give the sheriff first priority, but anybody could use that?
I can answer that. It's inside the secure area. Its primary function is for sheriff's office training, emergency operations center. So having it out into a space that anyone could get to.
When I
without
say
going-
anyone, I guess I was talking about internally, not externally.
Right. But not everybody's clear to wander around the sheriff's office, even if they work for the county. So you have to be careful who you let into the secure
There's no
areas.
access off the main.
There is, but then you have to lock all the doors and not let people out of it into the sheriff's office. I don't think it's going to be an issue. The sheriff is probably very willing to share it, but I can't speak for him. And then there's a couple more rooms that should become available. But you're right, it's probably, we'll end up getting stuck in the Trempealeau room.
Well, you know, and maybe it's just me, but I thought that was our intent, was to reduce the cost by trying to get around the need for security. In order to do that, we can't really let groups go to the meeting rooms that they want to go to, because I agree with you. If I had an option of going to a new meeting room that was designed for meetings, I'd take that one over the Trempealeau room every time.
Well, and the new county boardroom also has another function, which is it's the overflow for the court, so they would probably want some say over whether we can meet in that space as well. So there's some quality spaces, but we don't know how that's going to play out. We're going to be a good 12 months in facility before anybody's really got a good handle on it, I imagine.
Well, I guess what I'd like to see on Adi's suggested is more of a detailed account of what needs to be done in order to make that happen, and an approximate cost on cameras and
So I'll get with
connectivity.
Kurt then later, because like you said, we left 2 cameras down in the bottom of that stairwell, and then we added one in Tim's server room. So it would just be putting another badge reader, not putting an alarm on that particular door, and then isolating that particular badge reader. It's right now, to change everything, you're looking at, for my end, probably $1,500 for the camera and the lock. But then it's a matter of integrating that camera system into the other one. So I'll just have to update the amount of cameras and locks that I gave them, Samuels, for this remodel project. I'll update that with them today.
Thank
And
you.
the button thing too, you're gonna get an estimate on that?
I'll talk to them about that, but then that's running again from here all the way to current where dispatch is until I know when they're moving. Because that's, I think, up in the air at the moment too. It's not right away, so that's an easy run. Actually, dispatch where they are can look out the window and see that door right now, so it's easy enough to deal with.
All right, that'll go on the next meeting agenda as well. Number 11, discussion and possible action on county property highway right-of-way. Nick?
Welcome, everyone, to the discussion about, So Adi talked to me probably about a month and a half ago or so
Yeah.
about an issue on County Road V that was brought to his attention from neighboring landowner on County Road V in an area where County Road V was reconstructed and the road was altered. And that particular landowner was concerned about if people can now hunt in that area of expanded right-of-way or surplus land area that the county owns. And if you see on the screen here, I'm going to highlight that particular spot. So it's right in here is where that person is concerned. The landowner to the west is the one that approached Adi about that. And so what I did was I met with Adi and the rest of the highway committee last month, and we talked about this particular area, and we looked at other areas in the county, and the majority of them all have to deal with right-of-way area where the road used to be and is no longer, but the county still owns the property. And the highway committee was wondering if any decisions that need to be made that involve deeding county-owned property back to an adjacent landowner should be done through the highway committee or if it should be done through the property committee. And I said, well, we really got two issues going on. One, the county needs to determine if there is an existing policy when it comes to hunting on county property, because we have more than just right-of-way areas. We got Petrix Park, we got land that's owned by the healthcare center, either right outside of Whitehall here on the campus or over in that Blair area. We got land down in the area below the village of Trempealeau along the Mississippi River that's owned by the county. That and the need to make a determination if some of the surplus right-of-way area would be necessary for the county to keep because of potential road maintenance and construction in the future. So that's why I think Adi wanted it to be on the agenda for today.
Yeah, the highway committee, Nick was nice enough to come out and give the highway, and there's quite a few spots, County Trunk J, the main road by Trempealeau there, and County A. There's, and that was the discussion we had at the highway meeting. Does the county want to do something with this land? Because none of it's getting taxed, so the county's losing tax money off of this. And the guy, and what was brought to the attention was the guy's, this land goes up into his woods. And he says, well, a guy could come and stand right in my woods and shoot a deer, but it's county land. Is that legal? Because it's sick. You got to get so far off the edge of the road and then you can shoot a gun. Well, this is 100 yards from center line. So it's technically it's county land. Can you hunt on it? And these are questions he had because he was afraid somebody would do this. And then all of a sudden this kind of snowballed into Nick showing us all the other properties that the county has attained, and almost all through road changes. You know, you moved, like there, they moved that whole road, made it straight before, the old Dugway Road used to go around and meander back and forth. So what do you guys want to do? Do you want to be it's a property committee, number one, do we want to say no hunting on county land, but we do already allow it?
So,
two, do we want to lease it or sell it back to them? But Nick brought up a good point in case we ever had to do maintenance there. If you sold it back to them, in the agreement, you'd say the agreement would be that we would have access to any of that land we sell you back in case of emergency and we need to do maintenance on it. So this way we wouldn't have to worry about getting in there and getting permission. Or do you just want to leave it the way it is and saying no hunting? And technically, I don't know what the legalities of that is.
So Chair, I got a question for Nick. So I understood that roads are a right-of-way through a person's property, and your person's still paying taxes on that right-of-way, even though the road's going through it. Is that not accurate?
So the majority of the roads in Trempealeau County, whether it's county road, a lettered road, or town roads, they're what you would call done by a prescriptive easement, meaning that like the road out in front of your place, the town of Preston or town of Arcadia have the right to have a public roadway go through there, but the underlying land title, the ownership of the land under the road is still to the landowner. Unless the road
So you're
was-
still paying taxes all the way up to halfway through
Yep.
that road?
Unless the road was taken in fee title, meaning that government agency actually purchased the ownership rights to the road. And that's what happened in this County Road V area, because we had such a large reconstruction of that road. The county just purchased that property to be able to do what they needed to do. That's why, if you look at the screen, you can see where my cursor is. This is where the old road used to go. You can see how it meandered and then came back around. This was the old center line. So the county purchased this land in fee interest, and then they also purchased this land here where the existing roadway is right now. So the question is can this land be deeded back to the adjacent landowner? And the DOT for the state is going through and doing this on a bunch of their state highways. For example, State Road 95 between like Newcomb Valley Bar and when you start going up the hill. A lot of that changed now. The DOT's been deeding some of that surplus property back to the adjacent landowners because they deem it no use to them anymore. They don't even need it for maintenance purposes.
Yeah, that seems to me to be the number one thing we ought to try to do. There could be some circumstances where, oh man, it'd be nice for the county to have a piece of property to set some equipment on, but man, if we can give it back to the landowners, I don't know why we wouldn't. Number one, we'd start getting tax revenue on that. Number two, the landowner can then, do good for use of that land however they deem necessary.
Yep.
And then the hunting issue goes away.
Yeah. So like, for example, this is just north of Arcadia. Right here is the Lutheran church. Then you got the existing State Road 93. This was the other one I showed the highway committee. Right here where my cursor is going, that's owned by Trempealeau County all the way up to the railroad tracks.
Right.
See, that used to be County Road A. State Road 93 was the existing County Road A years ago. So the county purchased that property at that time, and then that road actually has shifted 2 other times to its present day. So in these cases here, why should the county own that property? It's being farmed. No one's paying taxes on it, but someone's
We're not
using
getting any
it.
lease money off of that farm, are we?
No.
Give it back.
Yeah. So
Let them buy it back.
Yes, there we go.
I think
And then they're gonna pay taxes on
Buy
it.
my suggestion to Audie and the rest of the highway commission would be is anything that falls into like a road situation, let the highway committee deal with that. Anything that falls out of a road situation probably should come before the property committee.
What do you mean? I mean,
Well, hunting for one thing. There's quite a bit of acreage that the county owns, and I don't know if there is a definitive rule or plan in place on how to handle requests to hunt on that property, or if.
I think you have to go to the DNR, because if you have wild woodlands management area, and there's some rules around, if you lease that out to somebody, you have to let anybody have access
But
to
the
it.
county doesn't have that because all the land is tax exempt. So the county's not enrolled in any forest land programs with.
I'm just saying that's an
Yeah.
example. There may be another policy by the state that if it's
Yeah.
government owned, that, hey, it's
Well,
free
we'd
for
have to
anybody to
do
go hunt
our-
on it.
Our
Yeah.
due diligence.
Yeah,
on
yeah.
Following that through. Question for you, Nick, is any of this theoretical issue take place down on Trempealeau County M? Because that was
Yes.
relocated significantly. And I would imagine we had to pay property owners to relocate M.
Yes.
I don't know how it got set up the way it was to begin with, because it makes sense to do it the way it's being done now,
Yeah.
where that straight shot to 35.
Yeah, but my question is, when it comes to surplus lands that was for road purposes, would it be better for the highway committee itself determine if the land can go back to the adjacent property owner and let them decide instead of having to come back to another committee?
Well, I agree, because I wouldn't want this committee to have to make a decision on whether that old right-of-way is gonna be useful at some point in the future for the highway department. But if it hasn't got anything to do with, like that example on 93, I would think that most of that area wouldn't be of any use to the highway department anymore.
Correct, and that's like in this area where A comes out to 93, Trempealeau County owns this piece right here. You know, and it's like,
Yeah.
again, if the highway committee would bring it to their meeting and approve it, does it need to come to the property committee? Because we're talking about property committee and property of the county. Does the property committee need to approve it also? Or can the highway department and the highway committee just do it themselves?
Nick, let me ask you a question. I understand your question, but now the comment made was that it'll put that property back on the tax roll. But if that property is already being taxed, if that property line goes down the center of that road, if it's already been taxed, that's not going to add anything to the property tax.
No, because the assessor really should be computing about how much land is in that area, and
making it some kind of a deduction.
In a deduction on like your
Okay.
overall land value. So
Okay.
yes, but we're talking about ownership. So yes, you would own out to the center of the
Right.
road, or if you own the entire
Right.
40 with the road. But the assessor's deducting, or should be deducting, a little bit of value off the land because of that right of way going through there.
So Chair, I think what we should do is, I'd like to have more information. How much land are we talking about across the whole county? What does that equate to in terms of tax revenue? So that we can make a better decision as to who really should make that decision. Maybe it should be a joint decision based on if this scope is huge, right? I think more people should be involved. It's just a few one-off things like this, then I'm okay letting the highway department decide whether they want that land or not. I'm assuming they're gonna say they don't wanna have to maintain it, so let the owner, original landowner buy it back.
Yeah, and we should really establish a policy, because this is gonna continue from
True,
now
yeah.
until the end of time as we find a need to change location of roads and
But as part of that potential policy change or update, we should have a full scope of what we're dealing with here. I think many departments would be interested in.
Yeah, so I was, gonna approach highway, the committee again, along with Neil, and say, instead of being completely overwhelmed, because we looked at a lot of areas, a lot of properties, is, take it one lettered road at a time. And I can sit down with Neil and his staff, and we can look at one lettered road. Maybe there's nothing on that lettered road, and then we can mark that off the list.
Yeah.
And then go to the next lettered road and say, oh, we got 3 spots where we have potential surplus lands, and let the highway committee or one of the committee people and Neil go out and look at it and say, whoa, there's a big slope here that we don't see on this map, but out there standing there, well, we probably need to hold on to this, and let them make a decision that way, and just do one road at a time.
Probably a good way of approaching it. One other thing for everybody to consider is, as county owns property, we have liability. And
Yeah.
if something wasn't done right and somebody rides a 4-wheeler down it and flips over, and, well, you guys didn't do appropriate, whatever, and now we're on the hook for a lawsuit. So another thing to think about when it comes to everybody having access to something that we can't control.
Yeah, so then the question then comes that we can talk about lands that like the county owns down in that Trempealeau area, down below, and even some of the lands that,
You're talking down by the lakes? is
yeah,
that-
down in that lakes region,
Okay.
or, discussion has been the land that deemed the healthcare center is taking care of. when it comes to a policy for hunting or any other recreational purposes. I think now with the new corp council, that probably should be tasked to them to see if, is there something existing?
I'm sure there's precedent somewhere in some other part of the state that we could lean on, so.
I know when I was younger, we did a lot of waterfowl hunting. There's a pond on that land on Arneson Ridge back there. And we were always told by the healthcare center, contact, it would have been Glenn Johnson at the time. He was kind of the head maintenance guy. He just wanted to know if we were gonna be going back there. Because they must have had a schedule if they were gonna have some of their residents out on the property or anything, then we knew that we couldn't go back there.
No different than any other landowner situation. You want to get approval before you access.
Right. But I don't think everybody does that.
No, I think you're right.
Hence the policy you need, wow.
I'm a little confused, Nick. Now, you take a road, and that center road, again, that property, say, goes with this owner here, and this goes over here. Okay, so you move the road, okay? Now, this property owner already owns that to the center, so that's immaterial. Why would the county own that?
In this case here, it must have been for the reasoning of taking the old road out, that the county decided to purchase that property.
Oh, so they actually purchased the property, okay.
Yeah, and
Okay,
then
well, I knew.
when I say fee title, that means that the government agency is actually purchasing the property.
Okay.
Kind of like an eminent domain thing, right?
Kind of.
Yeah.
And as far as like on the state highways, there's nothing really that we can do about it other than in these kind of the areas that I showed you, like going south of here. Neil would probably have to work with the DOT office out of Eau Claire to say, do you guys even realize that you have this here? And then the two agencies can work together, maybe of, actually going to the proper right-of-way area for ownership.
Yeah, I like the idea of, like Nick has mentioned, that for him, the commissioner, go over letter by letter, because this way you'll see in case, okay, maybe we need that for maintenance, or, and then we'll keep this one, but this one we have no use for whatsoever. And that, in turn, would give us a good idea exactly how much we got, what we have, and how we should move forward.
Speaking of that, on that town road in the town of Albion on Missile Road. So we got a township road. The county purchased the rights to the land to put the bridge in on a town road.
So the
county owns it.
He owns the township bridge that the township put in, but we purchased the land.
So then when we were in that meeting, we were like, well, now what happens when that township wants to come for aid?
Or for maintenance of the bridge, period.
Yeah. The county owns the bridge. So how many more of those do we have in the county? This was something I think was done in the 70s. I think I figured it out.
What was it?
Yeah.
You were
We've
talking
already
about
been giving them money to maintain that bridge.
We don't know that though yet.
Well, I'm sure we have if it's been since the 70s.
The bottom line is,
I'm sure they've done something.
highway should be doing this. If there's some major question, then maybe come back to the property. Until today, I thought my property meeting was taking care of where we're sitting right now. And I know it's our property, but you guys know what's going on. Just to continue to make the right decisions, everything would be just fine.
Well, another question here. No matter who decides this, is this not going to have to come in a resolution form to the board?
I'm not sure.
Well, that would be a matter for a corp council.
Well, I think if it's a matter of policy, the answer is yes.
Oh, yeah, the policy, but I think Dick
Yeah.
is asking if the county's gonna deed property back to the landowner. I don't know if that has to be a resolution to the full board or not.
I think you would have to talk to corp council.
Yeah,
They can
I
answer
think
that.
you might have to. If you're
Because
gonna
the other question that comes to be is, okay, if we want to sell that land, we don't want to own it as a county anymore. Yeah, it makes sense for the landowner adjacent to that to have first rights, but really, I mean, maybe other people want it, and do we need to put it out there that anybody can buy it? And then if nobody buys it, what do? It just sits there, I guess.
But we've been talking about deeding back, and talking about, there may be options where we'd want to sell it.
Yeah, but I don't think we can force the land, like that example where they're farming on it, right? Well, I don't want to buy it. I get free use of it right now. I don't want to buy it.
Yeah, and I think the state, the areas that I've seen, the state DOT, they just deed it back. They don't make the landowner actually pay a dollar amount for it.
What if he doesn't want to pay taxes on
I've,
We'll have to find out.
yeah.
it? There you go.
But I
I'm just
think
bring-
we
I'm
come
just
back-
bringing up those questions because that's all
Yeah.
the stuff that's going to come
Oh,
up
yeah.
when it comes to the policy and what we do.
Yeah, if we need to make a policy to make this all work, with your plan to go road by road, I think that should be done.
Yeah.
Corp
And
counsel.
if there's something changed there, otherwise you just go and
They
start
can
doing
look at the
it.
details.
Well, because we're dealing with real estate, I think Corp Council's got to be the one that
Make-
does the heavy lifting before it gets back to
Right,
committee.
okay, I
But
agree.
it's kind of the general feeling that the highway committee should, I think the general feeling amongst many of us, if not all of us, at the highway committee should be the primary here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who, if it would be Dan, would talk to the Corp Council about finding if there are existing policies when it comes to hunting or any other type of recreation on county-owned property.
Dan would be the perfect person to do that, yes.
Thank you, Doc.
Because I'm not sure if even on some of that existing land that I
I've
showed
never
you
been
guys
called
in that
perfect.
Chimney Rock area, that's actually wooded, if the highway committee or the highway commissioner even has authority to go up and kick someone off that wooded area.
Yeah, I mean, and that's how it all started. Just people were, like the guy was just wondering about hunting, and all of a sudden it just kind of blossomed from there. And I think it's good with the highway commissioner because then he'll know how much right away they need to maintain, if they need to
Right.
keep that or let it go, so we don't have to maintain it.
And that would be true on any of these parcels,
Yep,
obviously.
it's very true.
Okay. Sam, I think at least the current agenda can be used for the next meeting. Any members have any additions they'd like to see on the agenda for the meeting in November?
Not right now.
I can't see that far.
It's the 13th of November.
It's a Monday, 8:30, the 13th. Is that okay with everybody?
13th, yeah.
All right.
Now, the meeting on the 24th, the joint meeting, we will be able to come in on Zoom if we're not available then?
That's my understanding.
Okay.
That was the intent.
Yeah, okay.
With that, I will adjourn this meeting at 9:33 a.m.